Next up we have the staff menu. If we drop this down, you can see that we have the actual staff profiles held under the staff submenu or by pressing F1. In here we can see the staff that we have in this database. These tabs hold all the information we can capture within Venus. Not all of it is essential for your first day, but a lot of it will come into play later on when you get a longer staff list and you're wanting to use some of the flexibility of Venus to make sure you're filtering the most appropriate staff member for the appropriate roster. In here you can see the summary screen, which has core information that is captured on the initial insert of a record. This here has a very good resource on the knowledge base as to how to complete this end to end. You should follow that to get through this next stage. Once it has been entered, you can see personal details, information regarding the pay cycle, the gender, any ethnicities, any licenses or vehicles that they hold, their addresses, base suburbs. This is all very useful for geolocation. So for example, we have a Dixon Drive here. If we have this particular staff member wanting to work somewhere close by, that is one of the tools you can use to sort the results of who's appropriate for a roster, how far away they are from the client. Occupational is their professional registration and also their staff type and rate level. As you'd be familiar in the data entry types, these are items that you've created yourself, and this will relate through to which particular rate table is appropriate for them. This is also where you can enter visa details, any passport information, and a few tick boxes here that can impact the taxation of this individual. Alternate types are other rosters that they could work. This is where you can have people work multiple types of roster. The tax tab is where you put their tax file number in, their tax code, any additional tax that they are paying, percentage or dollar amount, whether they have HECS debt, help debt, and if they are a contractor, you can tick this and identify if they are GST registered and their ABN. The banking is of course their own bank account where you'll be paying into, so the ABA file that you submit to your bank will go to the right place. The super fund, this is where you can nominate any extra superannuation payments or any pre-tax, post-tax deductions for superannuation. Photos, where you can upload an image of the staff member. This feeds into the ID card functionality that we can also enable for you, where you can print ID cards for your staff. Checks, this feeds off the list you created under data entry and can either be a global or it can be to a client only. You can say whether someone has a particular check or not, the date it starts, the date it expires, and any comments around that. If there is no start date and there is no expiry date, that is deemed to be present. Start date and expiry date, of course, will make that relevant for that period. Categories is a tool where you can create groupings of your staff and your clients so that you can better filter who is appropriate for which roster. If this may be a north, south, east or western suburb, it may be experienced staff, lesser experienced staff. You can have the clients nominate which particular categories they are looking for, and you can have the staff member nominate which particular category they're a member of. Certificates are for any allowances that may be tied to a certificate. This is where you enter those certificates as being valid. Departments is where you can identify which particular departments in a client site this staff member would most be appropriate for or not. You can exclude them from certain departments or add them to. This will feed into the results when you're looking for a person for a roster. Preferences works in two ways. You can see a list of hospitals or clients here that like this particular individual, and on the contrary as well, you can insert here what clients this person does or does not prefer. Contacts is very straightforward, email, phone for SMS functionality or emailing functionality, also next of kin if required. Notes can be attached to the person's profile. Notes will be present against rosters, will be present against clients, will be present against staff. It's just where you want to keep your notes. Payslips is payslip history. Experience is a breakdown of where this person has worked, how many shifts they have worked there, the total hours, and the last shift date they worked there, if you're looking to get some sort of consistency on who you're assigning. Permanent availability is where you would nominate this person to be either a part-timer or not available for night shifts or not willing to work Mondays. This is where you can set that, and that is a default for this person each and every week. If you want to override this, you can go to staff daily availability, choose that individual, and also add in an overwriting record for the particular day in question. Linked documents is a file that you will attach to the profile and where you want to store those. You can click on these to open that file and read it. Email is a function where you can straight away email this person from within Venus. Comments will present for this individual. If you have anything in here, each and every time they are getting rostered for a roster. SMS, like email, is simply a location where you can instantly SMS this individual. Languages feeds into appropriateness for patients. Some patients may have a language requirement, as the same with skills. If you have certain skills that certain patients require, this is where you'll list them. Single touch payroll is now mandatory. You have the opportunity here to exempt someone if they are a charity or volunteering, for example. This is where you can put in their employment basis, their income stream type, and their nation if they are a visa holder. Termination payments are to be used if ever you have someone end employment with you, and if you have any leave to pay out, you can process that here. So that is the staff screen. Furthermore, under the staff menu item, we have mentioned the daily availability already. We have the pay adjustments. This is where you can adjust someone's pay, positive or negative. You can manually adjust the superannuation withheld, the taxation withheld, a positive or a negative amount, whether it is installed over multiple pays or there's a single payment. You can manage that all in here. There's a resource on the knowledge base that goes into great detail on this, and please refer to that if needing assistance. Staff leave is an optional module. From here you can identify whether someone does accrue leave or not, what type of leave they accrue, and if you're going to override their defaults. If the person's a part-time and they're not working a full 40-hour week, you may want to nominate their accruals and limitations within here. Balances can also be entered if they're migrating from another payroll platform. Leave payments can be processed in here by selecting the date range, the leave type, the hours, and the pay rate. This will all be paid in their following pay slip. Staff rewards has a knowledge base resource. It's pretty much an accrual of points depending on hours worked. Certain points accrued, you can then assign awards or rewards for that time worked. New staff import can be useful if you want to create a list of your staff from a spreadsheet. You just need to do a spreadsheet to this format, and then you can upload them as a skeleton entry against staff. It may make it easier to create your profiles. We also have an onboarding and recruitment functionality. This will take your applicants through their interviewing process, capture their documentation and change their status, and give us some entry-level information required to make them an employee with your agency. This has its own knowledge base resources, and we can give you a demonstration of this in person if required.